Hello and welcome to Old Faithful with your host, Matt Trask. My thanks to Perfect Wave Production, Steve Foudre and Jay Allen today behind the camera and the board. Drink some coffee at Black Hills Blend for reasons already stated. We're not having coffee on the show. My apologies to the guests for that. Keep 6 feet apart and wear your mask if you think that's important. Be careful out there. Vote in the election that's coming up. I better stop that. I am super excited, as I am every week, about this week's guest. Before the first year anniversary of the show, it's coming up. We got all 4 members of one band on the show.
Yep.
The Flava Flav of the band Flannel from Rapid City, Mr. James Dittman. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we're quite obviously going to talk about bass guitar.
Yeah.
But why don't you just go right ahead and tell us a little about you?
A little about me. Okay. Well, I'm a born and raised Rapid City kid. I went East River for a while for school. Got my music degree from USD.
Okay.
On saxophone, which we'll talk about another time.
Well, we'll probably end up talking a little bit about it today.
Yeah.
But, yeah. The man will be back with his saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
He's either very good or he has a very good saxophone, or more likely yet, both of those. So we're going to do that. Back to you.
Yeah. Yep. So I started playing bass in high school. Came back to Rapid 7-8 years ago, something like that, and got hooked up with Danny DeLang, our drummer, and he was my wife's cousin's husband, and that whole Rapid City tie thing.
Sure,
everybody's related.
Yeah,
and started a band with him. I played saxophone in that, and then that band kind of fell apart, and then we started up Flannel, which is a continuation of what they used to do with Somewhat Slim. It's just now Danny plays drums instead of bass, and like they said, they finally have a real bass player. No offense to Danny, he was a great bass player, but he's a lot more comfortable on drums.
We love you, Danny.
We love Danny. We love Danny a ton, and he's a super talented multi-instrumentalist. So, he plays drums, plays guitar, plays bass, plays keys a little bit. So,
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, yep.
So while we're on that subject, you play guitar, bass guitar, and saxophone, as we've already established. Do you play anything else?
Yep. So I can play piano. I haven't played it proficiently for quite a while, but I played from when I was 5 till I graduated high school. Played a little bit in college too. Went to school for saxophone, so I'll play. I have a alto sax, a tenor sax, bari sax, and a bass saxophone. I had to play flute and clarinet while I was in college for doubling on jazz band tunes and that sort of stuff. And I used to play guitar a bit in high school, but I could play a couple chords, but I wouldn't consider myself a guitar player.
Right. Did you always have a guitar? Did you always have a bass?
I got a guitar in high school. It was a hand-me-down classical acoustic guitar from my Aunt Sharon. If you know Jane, my Aunt Jane, but
I've met
her
Sharon.
oldest sister.
Right,
Sharon.
I don't know her well.
Yep, she handed down an old classical guitar to me, and I played that a little bit, and then started playing bass also in high school down at First United Methodist Church while I was going to youth group and stuff there, and so they had a really, really bad, I think it was a Jackson knockoff short scale, little white bass that couldn't stay in tune.
Sure.
You could almost put your fingers under it, under the strings, because the action was so bad. And so then I went up to Haggerty's and bought one of Randy Royer's old basses. So I still have it. I've got an old Korean Epiphone Thunderbird bass that I play from time to time, but then ended up finding this one and fell in love with it.
That is the perfect segue. The second time, I saw the band Flannel.
Mm-hmm.
I had started the show, and I saw two things. I was like, oh, all four of these guys are going to be on the show. I will not take no for an answer. One of them was this Ibanez Blazer bass, and the other one was Josh Kenner's amp.
Yeah.
Simply had to be on the show.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell us how you found this.
I found this a couple years ago down at Presidential Pond. It was hanging on the wall for, I don't know, 8 months before I bought it. I'd go in, play it a little bit, leave.
That one.
Yeah.
I had seen it too.
Yep. And I've got, for a bass player, I've got tiny hands. I've always, I've always fought with having small hands, so I don't like a really thick neck. I've always liked the sound of P basses. P bass necks are pretty uncomfortable for me to play. And the neck profile and everything on this, I've got several basses at home, and this one's always my number one. I don't know. I pick it up, and everything just feels right. And if I have an idea about what I want to do on the bass, it lets me do that, and it doesn't get in the way. So it's perfect for me.
I'm going to nerd out for a second, because one of the reasons I wanted this on the show is because I'm a total fanboy of these guitars. As quickly as I can, Ibanez Musical Instruments was a Japanese company, and who knows what they started selling. It might have been pencils or ping pong balls or something. They got into guitars. They started replicating American brands, and they were doing too well at it. They got sued. The details of the various suits are not important. In the late 70s, Ibanez realized they were going to have to come up with their own lines of guitars. And the Blazer was one of those very first. And this is it's branded a Blazer. It was soon changed to my absolute favorite, the Roadstar.
Yep.
And became the RG series, which is still, they still have an RG line today. But for my money, this is Matt Trask telling everybody how it is. The Blazers and the Roadstars have the best production necks that were ever made in the world.
Oh, I can't disagree. This it's far too perfect. And I always tell people it's, I've got a lot of buddies that play bass, and even my buddy out in Sioux Falls, I had him try it, and I'm like, I just want your opinion, because he's got his main bass is like a Music Man 5-string, but he plays upright with the South Dakota Symphony, and I mean he's all over the place. He's now one of the bass professors at Augustana, and he played it, and he goes, "Man, that's such a unique neck, and it's really close to the nut width of a jazz bass and the thickness of a jazz bass, but it's still, there's just something about it."
There really is.
I can't put my finger on it, no pun intended, but like it's I don't know what it is, but it's just perfect.
But your hand tells your brain this is good. Yeah.
But I'll even pick up a new Ibanez bass, one of the Sound Gears or something, and they feel phenomenal.
Right.
So
they've kept the recipe maybe.
Yeah,
in a drawer.
Like that. Yep. And this one being a Blazer, like you said, and with the lawsuit, my understanding, this is a 1981.
Okay.
So this is like the first series of those post-lawsuit basses.
Sure. Yeah.
So right after they got out of all of it.
Right after it's historical significance.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
I think, nerding out a small bit more, they started making the artist line of guitars in the late 70s. But you're probably right. Yeah. Is this heavy?
No.
It looks heavy.
No, it's one of my lighter basses.
Really?
Yeah. And I guess I got used to it because that Epiphone Thunderbird is an extremely long scale. It says 34, but I mean it's like first fret. I feel like I'm all the way down here, and it's solid mahogany, and it's like it's a tank. It's super heavy. The only other heavier bass that I've picked up locally is a GNL, an old 1990s era GNLP bass, and that thing is horribly heavy. Sure.
With this 2-mic setup, which I love, I'm having trouble seeing the face of the guitar. Is that a brass bridge? Yeah, buddy. Yep. 80s all the way.
Yep. Brass bridge. And I don't want you to get too excited. I did find the matching guitar to this. and I did buy it, and it has a brass bridge, but the coolest thing about that bridge is the ferrule end of the string goes down into the bridge, so it's like a fake through body. It's super cool.
Too late. I already got way too excited. You have to bring this on. If I'd have known, I'd have made you bring it.
Yep,
today.
and it's natural with a black pick guard, everything.
Sure. We also have to talk about, looking at them reminded me, the strap buttons.
Yeah, and I pulled
Very inventive.
I pulled these off of that guitar because I
okay.
liked them so much. And I don't know if they'll show up on the camera or not now that Jay just walked away. They are a forked design. So I know there's a company right now making kind of an oblong strap button, but because of that forked design, you got to work the strap all the way around before it comes off.
And I have never seen one come off on stage while somebody was playing.
Nope.
Yeah, right.
They're phenomenal. I don't know why they don't make these anymore, honestly.
I don't either, no. So, what brand and gauge of strings do you use on this guitar?
That is the mystery.
Oh, really? Another one of those? Okay.
It is a complete mystery. I brought this bass home from the pawn shop, plugged it into my amp, and Josh Kenner, everybody just went, man, that sounds so good. Said, yeah. And so I've been playing this now for, I don't know, 2 years. These are the same strings.
The same strings.
Because Chris Roman and I were even trying to decipher it one day. All the nipple ends, all the ferrules on this end, they're all just brass.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no like color coding to try and hint me towards what it is. I don't know. It sounds so good. I don't want to replace them.
You just don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
That's the second one, and actually it's going to be the second one in a row that bought a used bass, and it sounded so good they don't want to mess with anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's I don't know what gauge they are. I've never. I don't question any of it. I just I leave it as is and let it speak.
So you it's safe to say you have done nothing to this guitar but play it.
Yeah.
And put the strap buttons on.
Put the strap buttons on it. Yep. I did do one quick little stint with I tried some flat wounds on it just to see if I liked them, and with this bass it just wasn't the right sound.
Yeah.
So threw these right back on.
And you got these put back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a trick.
Yeah, I was super careful. I know it's breaking all the rules, but they sounded so good I didn't want to mess with it.
So tell us, did coming from saxophone help with playing bass? Did coming from bass help with playing the interplay between the two instruments?
So, I mean, obviously playing piano helps with everything.
Right.
And I guess that's my PSA for the day. Being able to see how things relate and whatnot, chords relate and leading tones and all that. Seeing that on piano is invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I already knew how to read music and everything, so hopping in at church, that's kind of why I got lumped into it, because it's like, oh, you can read music here. This is how it's tuned, so I, figured it out and started going from there. But then after high school, I didn't really play bass in college.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up playing my senior year of college. I played bass with pep band.
Okay.
Just to brush up and challenge myself a little bit, but all that music theory knowledge and everything, that's really, I feel, what helps the most.
Sure.
Just because I understand, scales and chords and all that sort of stuff, and it helps me figure out everything on the bass. Right.
A question about the band after you reminded me. That spiel reminded me of what tuning is this bass in? Standard
tuning. Yep.
Is the band a half step down or anything? Any silly stuff like that?
No. When I've played with Annie Get Your Grunge, they're all half step down, and I just bring my 5-string for that.
Oh, okay.
So makes everything easier.
Does this guitar hold tune fairly well?
Yeah, I'll set it at the beginning of the gig, and that's really the last I have to touch it.
And the next question concerning the flannel band itself, they are an unusual band for this area. Very entertaining, very good. they would be loved by people of all ages. We have proven that. People of all ages come to your shows.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing the standard country and rock stuff.
No.
Does most of it, the recorded versions of these songs, have a bass line, or have you had to make up bass lines?
Yeah, they all have bass lines.
Okay.
And honestly, I wouldn't say I was a naysayer of 90s music. I would say when I was growing up in the 90s, I didn't realize how good a lot of the 90s music
I
was.
am right there with you.
And
yes.
so as we dig in further, and there's tunes that I've always loved that's like, oh, that bass line's cool, this
Right.
tune's cool. But, I mean, songs that completely shocked me were like, we started looking at Waterfalls by TLC. And we play that all the time.
It's so good.
And that bass line was so good, I had to, like, go look up the history of it and all that stuff. And that I didn't know that bass line. That tune was written, and they brought in a jazz session bass player down in Atlanta when they were recording it. Mm-hmm. And he knocked that out in one take and just left.
Huh.
And that bass line is phenomenal.
We might not even know his name.
I don't even know his name.
Wow.
No, just a session player down there. I'm sure he's on a ton of different albums. But
Right.
Just walked in with his jazz bass
Just
and
a
knocked
day
it
at
out.
the office.
Yeah. Yep.
Huh.
Crushed it.
So, have you tried to learn the bass lines note for note, or?
There's some of them I have, note for note,
Right.
have transcribed the entire thing. Waterfalls, I haven't transcribed all of it, but I mean, I got the gist of it.
Right. Yeah.
You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette is another one. Phenomenal bass line. That's Flea that's playing on that one.
Really?
Yeah, so that was another cool one that we just had to figure out the history on because we
Right.
liked that tune so much, and it's one of our favorite tunes to play. And apparently, Alanis Morissette wrote that song, and it was this acoustic guitar kind of depressing tune. And the producer goes, I'm going to call two of my buddies, and we're going to tweak the song a little bit. And it was Flea and Dave Navarro that came in.
Oh, wow.
And like rewrote everything out of the tune.
Right.
And changed it into what it is.
Wow.
And I think the drummer from Foo Fighters was in on that one too. I can't remember.
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor.
Dawkins.
I'm pretty sure it was Taylor, Dave Navarro, and Flea that are the rhythm section under
We
that.
be nerding here on Old Faithful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I got to throw this one in now, and I might be wrong, but we'll go with that. I think that just because I got to throw one back at you.
Okay.
The slide guitar parts on Bob Seger's Like a Rock were a Canadian session musician who just showed up, knocked it out, and left.
Jeez.
I think,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a first lawsuit.
Yeah.
Here
Who
on Old
knows?
Faithful.
Who knows?
For disseminating untruthful information.
It could be.
So, when you guys are playing, it's very much a show.
Yeah.
Is it a planned show, or have you guys had to learn to read each other?
It's a little bit of everything.
Right.
I mean, our set list is planned, but it's loose.
Sure.
I mean, so Danny has a talkback switch on his mic, and if the crowd's really not feeling what we're doing, he'll just start calling tunes.
Sure.
Another thing Danny's great at is just reading people,
Right.
and reading an audience, and just like, nope, this isn't gonna work. We're gonna do this. We don't really have a planned show as far as like, you're gonna say this at this point, and this is
Right.
what I'm gonna say. When we have the right show, we will plan out talking points as far as like, Josh has to tune at this, so somebody has to talk.
Sure.
And so so nobody stares at each other, it's Pat's gonna talk at this time, James
Sure.
is gonna talk
Yeah.
here, Danny's gonna. So we'll plan some of that just
Right.
because we're very focused on not only putting out a really good show musically, but we want to keep energy and everything going. We don't want to have very much downtime.
So far, so good on that.
Yeah.
Have we are in a pandemic, in case anybody hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
Do we have some new tricks to throw at the adoring throne when we come back from the pandemic?
We have several new tunes we've been working on.
Awesome.
We haven't really sat down and gotten everything together. We have several ideas of original tunes, just little pieces here. So we're talking about writing some music. Because
Hey.
Pat and Josh have been writing music
Right.
for Pat and Josh have been writing music for 17 years. I mean, they've been playing together forever.
Sure.
So they've already got a handful of original tunes. So we're reworking some and doing some. But even Josh and I had sat in the studio last night and we worked out a couple new tunes. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
15 minutes in and we haven't even gotten to his amp or his pedal board. Thankfully, his pedal board is very small. He has elected not to bring his amp. He's going to play through the shop's Ampeg B15S. Tell us about your pedal board quickly and the amp that you use on stage.
Yep, my pedal board is really basic. Normally, I've got a wireless transmitter that I go into first, just so Josh and I can run around the stage. And then I've got Electro Harmonics Big Muff fuzz pedal, Electro Harmonics Qtron envelope filter, and I mean those are super standard.
Very standard.
Those are, if you have a bass, those are pedals you just have to have.
Right.
Then I have the TC Electronics 7-Up mini pedal. I use that quite a bit. Shopping for something a little bit different. I want to get into that Boss OC2 type vibe. There's a cool effect that you can do with that has a faux synth sound to your bass with those. So,
sure.
Yep. And I used to have a compressor after all that to kind of control everything, but it died. So I played for years without a compressor, and then only used a compressor for about a year, and then it broke, and I'm just used to not playing with a compressor.
Was it a dedicated bass compressor or not?
Yeah, it was the MXR bass compressor.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And the amp that you use on stage?
Yep. So the amp I use on stage is a Ampeg 810, the fridge,
hey.
the big fridge.
Okay.
And the head I use with that is a Mark Bass Little Mark II head. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just a nice solid state head
Right.
that I just don't have to worry about.
It sounds great.
It sounds phenomenal, so I can't complain.
Well, we will wrap this little show up. Remember my sponsorship with Trask LLC. Large round and square bales, 5150858. Flea says change your strengths. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Dittman. Play us out, buddy.
All right.